Now he knows it's not necessarily about the league. It's about the playing time. It's about the right club and the fit. So Bundesliga and Liga, Serie A, all those, everything's on the table.
Which Americans need to make a move this summer? Like, absolutely, 1,000% have to do it. You mentioned Gio Reyna. I'd actually put my flag in the ground and say Matt Turner. That guy needs to move. He needs to be.
Yes.
He needs to be the guy somewhere. We can't have him being number two, and just pumping up the ego of the number one.
It technically is on loan, right? So that's not a permanent move to Crystal Palace. It was a desperation move just to put himself in a position where he's at least the number two, knowing at Nottingham Forest he was never going to see the field. So at least he's saying, oh, well, if Dean Henderson gets injured or is suspended, that's the only way he's going to play. He's not going to play over Dean because we've already seen Dean Henderson had poor form and Matt Turner wasn't going to play. But when he has played, he's played well for Crystal Palace. So now he goes back to Nottingham Forest in the summer, and you're starting to shop. I know he had options to play in leagues in Europe outside of the English Premier League, but Crystal Palace weren't going to let him leave until the very end of the window, where all those options were then taken by other keepers. So he will make a move.
So are you saying that he was open to it? Because I feel like he has.
Oh, yes.
Well, I feel like he's, from what I've heard and listened to him before in past interviews, I feel like he's got an emotional attachment to wanting to stay in the Premier League. And I totally respect and get that.
No, but it's not that.
Okay.
It's not that. It's not that. Of course, you go from the New England Revolution to Arsenal. We're talking 0 to 100. And you're competing for the Premier League title. You're in Europe. You're playing with some of the best players in the world. You go from that to all of a sudden, hey, I think I have a shot. I play in a World Cup. I actually do well in a World Cup. I started for my country, and my counterpart, my colleague, was on the bench for England and watched me perform well to get a point against England in a World Cup. Like, that gave him a lot of confidence, and rightfully so. And then to go back to Arsenal and say, all right, maybe I'm not going to perform the way, or give the opportunity to perform in the way that I think I should at the moment. I think I've done enough to warrant that chance. I'm going to compete. It doesn't work out. So you move to Nottingham Forest. Who knew that Nottingham Forest would be a train wreck under Cooper? Nuno Espirito Santo comes in and plays this desperation. I got to just survive before I, reshuffle things and retool things. Unfortunately, Matt Turner didn't make the most of those opportunities, and the writing was on the wall. So therefore he has to move. Now he knows it's not necessarily about the league. It's about the playing time. It's about the right club and the fit. So Bundesliga and Liga, Serie A, all those, everything's on the table.
Okay. All right. So listen, we've done a lot of talking, you and me, Chuck, but let's actually throw it over to our resident goalkeeper, Tony Meola, on his thoughts on what Matt Turner should do. Go ahead, Tom. Take it away.
No, I don't know what else. I don't know what else you can add to that. I mean, he's got to be the number one. I still, me personally, I wouldn't feel confident if the guy that's going to play in the World Cup is not a guy playing week in and week out at his club and coming off a club season and going right into the World Cup. Like, I wouldn't feel confident. Whatever level, if it is Matt Turner and it's this sort of 7 games in the first part of the season, 6 games in the second part of the season, don't you always think that you would ask yourself, man, whatever level he played, 7, 8, don't you always go, oh man, if he was playing all year, could he have been a 9? Like, isn't there something in you that would you'd ask yourself that at some point? And that's where I get hung up. I'm with you. He needs to make a move. And we talk about the obvious ones all the time, right? We talk about Gio all the time, and he needs to make a move. You mentioned it. Like, there's other guys too that I think that are the next tier that need to make moves as well.
Can I ask you a question, Tony? If you were in Matt Turner's shoes, you're playing for the Revs, Arsenal comes in for you for that transfer price, knowing yet you're probably number 2 to Aaron, not probably, you are number 2 to Aaron Ramsdale, maybe 3, depending on how well you do. Are you going to make that move? No. And your salary is going to, however, quadruple.
Yeah, you're betting
right?
on yourself.
You're going to make that move, right, Tony? And like,
I don't think you have a choice.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have it, but because you're younger and you haven't played in a World Cup yet, and was 2 years out from the World Cup still, right? And who knows what the timeline he was given was when he was negotiating.
I think 1 year out from the World Cup.
Okay, 1 year out.
Yeah.
So you still got some time to get in. Who knows what they told him at that time, and who knows what he's thinking. His mindset is probably, hey, I can go in there and win the job, right? And I'm with you, Jimmy. I've heard his interviews, and I feel like he's hell bent on staying in the Premier League. That's what we've said this before. Like, he wants to be in, which is fine. But I still think no matter what, even he played okay in the World Cup. It wasn't like he was great in the World Cup, but he was fine. He didn't hurt us. I always think, I go to the Iran game when the ball goes past. Like, if you're a little bit more organized, do you make a different play? I'm always thinking that there could be one more point on your score, like if you're playing, and where does that get you? And do you make a save? And do you catch a cross? And all of that stuff. But I feel like we talk about, he's the one with Gio that we talk about all the time. I still think there's other guys as well that need to make moves.
Well, the Busio shout's a good one. The Busio shout's a good one.
If he gets relegated. Sorry, I didn't finish the statement.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
sure.
Jim. Yeah.
No, but you're right. If Busio gets relegated, he should absolutely 1,000% make a move. And I wonder if there's a higher ceiling for him in Serie A, or a club that can be a little bit more competitive. We'll have to wait and see how the season plays out, because he's been a pivotal player for the team. I actually want to talk about Josh Sargent a little bit. We saw a comment in the chat saying that Josh Sargent needs to move to a top 5 league. And
I've been shouting that from the mountaintops of the Alps.
Okay, so it's Jahir. So Jahir says this. We appreciate your loyalty to us. Jahir means a lot. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. But Chuck, if let's say if Norwich doesn't get promoted and he's going to stay in the championship, or it looks like he'll stay with them for the next season, right, leading into the World Cup, he'll get to play. He'll still get to be a prominent figure, and they get to drive a lot of games. My fear is if he stays with Norwich and they get promoted, then it's like it was before. He's just playing defense 80% of the time, and he can't really, he can't get a control of the ball. So okay, if that's, then I would prefer him to move. If they got promoted, as crazy as that sounds, I would want him to move. And I don't think that he would. The Premier League is so intoxicating, so romantic, the romanticism around the league and everything.
First off, it's a big if, right?
No, of course. They got a lot of work to do. A lot of games.
They're not even where they were last year, and they didn't get promoted.
Because he was hurt for 10 games.
But so that gives you an idea, right? And actually last week when I was in London, there were a couple of Norwich fans, coincidentally, in and around IMG, and so I said, how do you feel about Josh Sargent? Yeah, terrific player, works his butt off, fights for the team, injured quite a bit. I said, oh, okay. Well, where and he's like, you know what? I just don't think he's quite the clinical goal scorer that a traditional number 9 is. He's a great goal scorer, but he's not banging in like Pukki was. Timu Pukki was a finisher, right? And Josh Sargent gives you much more than Timu Pukki, but he's not like your everyday banging 20, 30 goals a season. And that's fine. But he said he thinks too that he's ready for another step, like that Norwich isn't his end all be on. And it might not be the Premier League. He thinks he could be a capable Premier League striker for a mid to bottom tier team in the Prem, but agreed with me ultimately that test yourself in the Bundesliga or Liga or Serie A, in the right situation. I think that you'll be able to evaluate him much more, right? It'll be easier to see where he is, how he is playing, and it also pushes him a little bit more. And again, obviously you need to be in the right situation where you're not just defending to survive, where we saw him in the Bundesliga. He had like 10 touches a game because he was just defending and running, right?
Yeah, no, I think that it's going to be interesting summer for a lot of our players. And now that the January transfer window is closed, Toads, get back to our goalkeeper chat. Gaga Slonina, I know you have a soft spot for him. His upside is pretty tremendous, but he's still young. Now he's back with Chelsea and still injured.
Yeah, it's been like something going on with that hand, because it's been I'd have to look, but I feel like we're coming up on 2.5 months now with the injury, right? And I don't have any indication that he's training at the moment, so I can probably look that up somewhere. But yeah, our goalkeeping situation is not great. You mentioned Matt Turner. Who's after that? You know, it's not Ethan Horvath. It's
Zach
Zach
Steffen?
Steffen has gotten
Zach
a couple
Steffen's
of.
probably vaulted to number 2.
I would think so. At least as we sit today, right? I would think that's the case, but you know, who knows? Who knows what they're thinking at Chelsea? I think they thought that he was going to be recovered a little quicker for the January window, and they'd be able to send him someplace else. But they're rehabbing him there. I know that, and I should find out if he's training or not. I don't know.
Yeah, another one too. Richie Ledesma. He's been a stalwart at right back for PSV. I know that we're waiting for Serginho Dest to come back and to reassume that role, but he's been solid. And I wonder if he's going to think once his minutes are taken away because of Tyrell Malacia coming in from Manchester United being on the left side. You got Serginho Dest when he comes back on the right. Can't get into the midfield anywhere. Maybe he's going to want to make a move as well because I think he's done quite well. I just wanted to give him a shout out because I think he's been quietly solid throughout this season, playing in a position that's not even his best position. Oh, look at you. He got to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. So if you want more average to good content, then you know where to go find it. Go peruse our channel, then hit like, then hit subscribe, and of course, turn on your notifications so that you never miss a show. We'll see you next time.